So, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It's April 24th, and we're in part two of our Gugwe preview of author Jim Shaw's thriller that's going to detail aspects of his feelings on the Gugwe legend and his impact on provincial and national culture. But before we get started, we'd like to thank some of our new followers that have taken time to access our first Gugwe podcast on some of the Bigfoot sites in the U.S., especially Eastern U.S. We appreciate you guys listening. Please continue to follow. We hope you're going to provide a different perspective on the Gugwe legend. So, Jim, good afternoon. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Well, we're still unsuffering from the loss of the Leafs last night, and
I'm not suffering at all.
put it this way: you deserve what you get. When you put a Leaf jersey on, you might as well put a whip into your back and take the beating. So, but that's neither here nor there. We're talking about something more important: the legend of the Gugwe. Now, Jim, we're going to talk about the title of your Gugwe thriller or Gugwe book. What is the great? It's a great title. Please let our listeners know what the title is.
Yeah. The title is Gugwe, and then Big Trouble at Whistling Death Ridge.
So, why the title, Jimmy? You talked about a little bit yesterday about the whistling legend of the Gugwe. Could you expand on how the title ties into the Gugwe real legend?
Well, as we learned yesterday, our intrepid heroes, victims slash
That's Baxter, by the way, not the Gugwe.
moonshiners, are they're going out in the middle of nowhere so they can brew up their moonshine without Herb Ward going after them, because Herb's already staked out his territory and what he wants to do. So they go to a place that nobody goes to, and
The kitchen? Okay, sorry.
it's called Whistling Death Ridge. And the legends, of course, I took that name because a lot of places get their names from things that have happened in that area. So the long ago legend of this area was the fact that lumberjacks went out there and they were all killed. The one survivor always said that there was a strange whistling that went on out there, so it got its name, Whistling Death Ridge. The natives also, they just called it the Ridge of Death. So the names kind of correlated, but down through the years, of course, people would forget the native references to it, which they do in my story. It's not until book 2 that you get that reference. So these guys are going out to this place called the Whistling Death Ridge.
Death Ridge, yes.
I'm all tongue-tied.
Well, no, it's a great title, that's what I'm saying. Because the whistling death, I mean, obviously, it brings in connotations of how sound that sounds normally quiet like a bird or, peaceful can lead to death. Because usually when death occurs, there's no whistling that happens, because unless it's, kerosene that is basically hit an explosion in a cooker or whatever. So set up the scenario. If you could look at Whistling Ridge, what does it look like? Let's say from an artist, because you're an artist, a conception. What would Whistling Ridge look like? Is it like a valley, or is it a ridge into a valley? Or?
A ridge line is actually elevated. It would be like a hill along a hill cliff type thing along like a valley or a creek stream. It would be a ridge.
Kind of an old lookout, as we
And
say.
in this particular place is it's a hardwood ridge. Of course, most ridges are hardwood ridges, and the softwoods are down towards into the gully, or where the brook is. They're not actually on the ridge itself. They're in like a valley where there's a meadow, and just off to the side is a brook, and it drains into a big beaver pond.
See, like a lot of people who are not from New Brunswick maybe don't know, a lot of wooded New Brunswick is swampland or clear cut or hardwood or softwood areas. It can be very foreboding, especially if someone gets lost in the woods. So the whole concept with this, Jimmy, what type of your experience, your research into the Gugwe is going to apply to the breakdown of what the characters will be facing?
I'm basing it on accounts of how this creature acts. I listened to Brian Hamilton. No, my apologies.
That's okay.
Brian Sullivan's podcast,
Both great families, Sullivan's and the Hamiltons.
and he does a lot of research into the Janoskwe, Wendigo, and also in the Gugwe. And I've listened to videos from my Facebook friend Kat Hansen, and she's an incredible wealth of knowledge. So I listen to these people, and then I fabricate based on historical accounts of what people run into and how this creature acted. I know that I've got to get inside its mind and some of the scenes, but I think I'm going to treat it more like a primate. I don't necessarily, now don't quote me, because I don't for 1 minute believe that any Sasquatch is a primate. Not a primate as you're thinking, like a gorilla or a chimpanzee. I think there's something different and distinct. But what they are exactly, we're not altogether sure of that. But
Well, some people believes like baboons or gorillas or orangutans have a higher level of intelligence than the Sasquatch. Homus, I don't know what to be called, not Homo sapien, but some kind of genius. What like for the Gugwe for you? You mentioned yesterday it's a very very interpretive, creation of the creation. It's there to track down prey. It's there to eat prey. Is there to where to prey? You mentioned about the face eater legend, and
the Gugwe's the boss man of the woods.
the boss man of the woods. I was about to say that.
He's been mistaken a lot, but some people have seen the Gugwe and thought they've seen a dog man. I don't know much about the dog man, but I do
I've
know
heard that too. Yeah,
they're different.
Yeah.
I'm not claiming to be an expert in any of this either. I just know to listen to what the experts say. And then I grew up going in the woods anyway, so I can fabricate or spin a story that way. But it's going to be an interesting story because you're going to be taken on a journey with these four guys, and their journey. I got one of my fellows characters. His name is Fast Eddie. He's the money man. He's the guy that supplies the money for the whole operation.
Not a pool shark, though.
And he doesn't like being out in the woods. No, he's not a pool shark. He's out in the woods though because they needed, they need extra help, and he's kind of romanticizes himself as a woodsman, wants to be a woodsman, but his camping experience has usually always been going to a campsite, not going in the middle of nowhere. And of course, he is not too far from a town where he can go buy his food. So he's a greenhorn, and he has a journey on how he becomes comfortable in the woods. And I've got another character named David, who of all four of the men in the story, he's the most experienced woodsman. He's the one that went ahead, and he scouted where the camp was going to be. He put the foundation in the different places that they were going to have for their camp, where they're going to put the still and all that. He did all the pre-scouting, and he's the guy that's going to be responsible for making sure that he's like a hunting guide. He's going to make sure everyone is looked after and that they're fed, and he's just going to be their go-to guy. Then we got the leader of the group, Gary. He kind of oversees everything. Gary and Alan's kind of a woodsy kind of guy, but Alan and Gary, they kind of are the ones that are, let's just say they're the most knowledgeable in making the moonshine.
You see, where I come from, the North Shore, Jacket River, Beldoon, Lower, and Gravel Hill, you go into the woods, and it's mostly swampy areas, clear-cut, blueberry patches, but you can get lost in the woods very quickly, and most of the moonshiners of home, they're having easier access in the woods since the ATV or the four-wheel version, not the three-wheel version, has access. But in this case, how much of their travel is by foot in your book, and how much is by ATV or by other means, Jimmy? Because that'd be interesting to break that down for the listeners. Sir.
Well, the novel starts out with all four of them in a Jeep Cherokee.
Okay.
And they're going out, and they're driving as far as that Jeep can possibly go, and then they stop and park it, and then they go the rest of the way in on foot. And it's a treacherous path. There'd be no way to get a four-wheeler in that type of a path. So they're very confident of that, and the legend of the fact that nobody goes up there because it's the Whistling Death Ridge. They're fairly confident that they'll be up there to conduct their business unmolested and undisturbed.
Well, I mean, the characters are trying to profit heavily from the moonshine. Like in your book, are they longtime moonshiners or just taking it up?
This is their first attempt.
Okay. So what motivated your characters to take up moonshine?
Because they had the hell knocked out of them by the local guy who's in charge of all the marijuana grow out, Herb Ward, who's in control of what he has named he calls the Cloverleaf Cartel. I find it funny, but it's just when this character talks to me in my mind, he's a super badass kind of guy, but he's almost likable too.
Yeah,
He's funny as hell.
Yeah, because some asses are likable because the level of ego and confidence you show, it makes them almost cartoonish. Because I used to deal with dope dealers up home who would bring upwards of 1,000 joints to the local high school to sell during the week, and open Adidas bags that could be easily zipped open. He wasn't scared. And after he sold his dope, he would go to the local convenience store and steal chocolate bars and bags of Smarties and sell them. And he took that money to rebuy the dope. And he was a great guy, nice to talk to. Big Montreal fan, by the way, not a Leafs fan. You know, most dope dealers are Montreal fans because usually
See, there's good in everybody.
because people got stoned back in the day, the teams that won. Leaf fans don't get stoned; you just basically wear a hat and you get older and grayer as the years go on. So now in recent, like how many years have you been researching the Gugwe? You said it goes back quite a few.
I've been
seasons
researching Sasquatch for many, 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 many years, and I have outlined novels that I thought I might want to do with Sasquatch. But the problem is, it's. I'm not saying that they're friendly, gentle giants out there. But I wouldn't want to pull a Peter Benchley and turn a lot of people against a species that they shouldn't be, maybe turned against.
Well, Peter Benchley's a hack, but that's another podcast.
Oh,
altogether.
he's one of my favorite authors.
No, I've never liked him.
Anyway, you're allowed your opinion.
Well, yeah, that was great. I read his stuff and I couldn't get past page 40 because it was just so self-centered. I said, "This is like me writing here." So.
Oh, I love his writing. But anyway, I didn't want to do a Peter Benchley and do what he did and turn an entire generation of people against a certain creature. So, but you can't deny the fact that hundreds of thousands of people go missing every year in these national woods and forests clear across North America. And you can't deny the fact that when you overlay the two maps, one of where the missing people go missing, and the clusters of Sasquatch sightings, we call Sasquatch sightings, let's say relic hominoid, that's probably better. They are virtually identical. So there's no such thing as a coincidence. Maybe some of these people are done in by unscrupulous people.
Oh, no, they are, yeah. Like
or
a
maybe
good
some of them are
percentage,
done in by cougars and stuff. But
Yep.
the vast majority, it's just it can't be that kind of a coincidence. So I decided there had to have been something other than that, and when I got onto that book, Legends, Myths, and Giants, you can look it up on YouTube if you want. This gal, she took the time to go to every native tribe all over, and she started looking into their legends and myths, and then the giants part, because the natives all across our beautiful continent, North America, talk about a creature that inhabits the woods. They never referred to it as a gorilla because they didn't have a conception what a gorilla was. They always referred to it as a wild man or a giant, or most commonly a cannibal. So I'm thinking, whoa, wait a minute. So there's something sinister going on there. So then your mind starts thinking, wow, gee, let's look into this. So as I started researching on YouTube, I have all these, I call them the masters that I listen to. And then I got on to Brian Sullivan. And Brian Sullivan had an experience with a Wendigo or / Janoskwe. Same creature, just different names for the region it was in. And I got quite interested in what he had to say. And then he started interviewing other people who have come into contact with these creatures. And one name that started coming up was Gugwe. And I'm thinking, okay, Gugwe, well, it's a crazy name. But I decided I was going to research that even more. So the more I learned about the Gugwe, aka the Face Eater, aka the Bear Man in Ontario, it got me onto the fact that we have the photographic evidence of this thing, the Beast of Seven Shoots, and I'm thinking, okay, I can spin a story around this. So I fiddle-frigged around with it for a while because I'm working on another story called Dark Angels. It's a third of the Secrets of the Damned. I've run into a little bit of a problem with it because that's a whole other story
For another podcast.
for another podcast. But the problem is, every time I sit down to start writing, the characters that scream the loudest to me are these guys in the woods.
Yep. But I mean, you got to understand, a writer can only write what's in his head. And I'll give you an example. This is my fourth podcast of the day. I didn't get up yesterday morning to do 4 podcasts, but it was a perfect storm happened. Our good friend Derek Hamilton got 9 Leo nominations for his movie Rabbit.
That's because Derek Hamilton is awesome.
Okay, but we all know Derek's awesome. That's we all know that.
Well, you guys should know that.
You should know
if
that.
If you get a chance to watch
have a chance
movie
because
Rabbit,
super channel on
hook onto
demand.
that.
It's probably the best Canadian movie of the year. Canadian Screen Awards, you're disgraced to not reach out to the production company and force them to nominate a movie. The best Canadian movie of the year is Rabbit. I've seen a lot of good stuff this year. Anyway, that's another. He'd be good for the Gugwe movie, by the way. He'd be perfect.
Listen, if he wants in any movie that I had anything to do with, any story that I've written, if he wants to make a movie out of it,
Well, he's an Brunswick creator like you are.
he's got my full blessing because I just admire him.
Yeah.
I admire him so much.
Well, you got to understand, Derek has followed his dreams of success, and his family background allowed him to do that. The Richards, the LaPointes, all his family up home are very talented. I mean, he comes from a background like Jim is, very diverse, like mine's very diverse. But you got to talk when you're talking about books and creation and stuff. You got to go with the flow of the moment, because the worst part for a writer, if you got an idea for a story and it leaves your head and you can't get it back. That's happened to me many years. And being an investigative reporter, there's 50 cold cases in this province I'd like to be working on today, but I don't have the resources. But here's the funny thing, ladies and gentlemen. If this was the mid-1970s with all the Sasquatch movies on TV and in search of, we've lost a lot of our Sasquatch momentum. And now in 2019, I think it's time for people to look at the Sasquatch legends. If people really respect the Aboriginal teachings we're trying to pass on to the white population, maybe the Gugwe and the other legends should be. I'd like to see this taught in school too, talking about Aboriginal legends, not only the Wendigo and the Gugwe and Turtle Island aspect and all that, because this celebrates like an oral tradition. See, podcasts are oral tradition. We're just telling stories like they did 100 years ago, but there was no computers or podcasts programmed to do it. We're telling you a story in Jim's mind and hope that you like it and pass it to your friends. That's the story you want to read.
Right, and my job, of course, is to take this story and make the characters compelling, the situations realistic, so that you can suspend your disbelief and slip yourself into this world. And how I do that, I mean, I'm attuned to listening to dialogues around me. I'd rather listen to people talk, and I like seeing how people react. But also, on top of that, to make the subject and the situations realistic, I immerse myself into their worlds. I must tell you, there are people I consider the masters of this stuff. Brian Sullivan, certainly. Kat Hansen, absolutely. That woman is a wealth of knowledge. Todd Standing, I'm telling you, he's the real deal. He really is. There's a fellow named Thinker Thunker. I draw a lot of information from him. And of course, there's Les Stroud. You can't put it past the fact that all these people who are experts in this sort of stuff. I mean, Les Stroud doesn't say I'm an expert in Bigfoot, but there isn't anybody else around who is more of an expert in survival outside into the wilderness. So I listen to all these people so that I can weave their truths into my lies.
You see with like the oral traditions of the North Shore, a lot of the talk about survival, because a lot of the stories of that passed down Mi'kmaq Maliseet are about survival, how we survive against the bears, the coyotes on the sea. There's even stories talked about how you used to go lobster fishing without the possibility of having icebreakers or break it by the New Mills Wharf. Aboriginal storytelling, majority of it is about survival. you surviving or the survivors telling the story. So Jim, we're gonna wrap up pretty soon. Now, what can you talk about the timetable for the Gugwe book? When are you looking at final publishing or your first final draft? Because you're going to write so much and then edit as you go. What is your timetable for the Gugwe, the first book in the Gugwe series?
Fall,
September, October,
somewhere in that length.
and
Yeah.
you're going to be working on artist conceptions of the main characters and your Gugwe. What is your Gugwe? What do you think your Gugwe is going to look like?
A baboon.
No, I mean, what is it going to be the largest Gugwe ever, or like a medium-sized one, or very thick, very wide waist, or very? Are we talking 6 feet? Are we talking
You
9
know what?
feet?
I'm going to tell you. Go to Brian Hamilton's. Why do I say Brian Hamilton? Rest in peace. Brian Sullivan's
In front of him,
podcast,
yeah.
where he's interviewing Kat Hansen, and she has the perfect description of what the Gugwe looks like. You know, I wanted to say something that I didn't tell you yesterday. In the woods, if you're in the woods, right, we know what a bear smells like, and we know what a skunk smells like. But there is a smell that is similar, but much more rank.
Pungent.
Is that's the Gugwe. The Sasquatch doesn't have a smell. It's the Gugwe that has the smell. And the reason why the Gugwe has the smell is, as the natives have always just said, they have a peculiar habit of whatever they kill, a bear, whatever, they rip its fur off, the hide off it, and they'll put it on their bodies to wear it. I mean, they're not sitting down and like a seamstress and sewing up clothes or anything.
Yeah, like
But
Silence of the Lambs,
they
yeah.
wear the fur to protect themselves against the colder elements of up here in Canada. Because let's face it, folks, if you're not a Canadian, you don't know what cold is. Well, maybe if you're a Russian, you do.
Serbian.
Maybe. Well, they're close
If
too.
Russian soldiers could beat the Germans,
But
they
us,
know what cold is.
us northern people, we have a unique appreciation for the cold, and when you have a creature who's so stubborn who will stay here even in the wintertime. I mean, there's a theory that the Squatches, they migrate. They work their way down south and they work their way back up into the north.
Like the Florida area. And,
But the Gugwe doesn't do
Carolinas,
that.
yeah.
The
Yeah.
Gugwe stays, and
he's there to eat and destroy and survive,
apparently.
apparently. Now, as we're wrapping up, Jim, just to change the subject completely, getting back to Secrets of the Dam. Again, thanks a lot for everybody with the support. Audible, Kindle, Amazon. If you like it, get a review. But we're hoping that the Gugwe fans, the Bigfoot fans, will get into the Secrets of the Dam podcast we've done.
And vice
the books
versa.
And vice versa. Because it's a cooperative thing we're trying to do. We're trying to get people interested in the creative process of what Jim's doing. And then you see in literally audio and print form. But do you think Nora would go for a Gugwe book as her audio actress?
I can't speak for her.
No, but the Gugwe
I just
doesn't
know
have the
that
voice.
I'm not done with Secrets of the Damned. I just have to get this one out because it's
Yeah.
the one that's
It's in your soul right now.
It seems to be the one that's worked its way to the forefront.
Yeah.
But Dark Angels, it's on its way. As far as what Nora's going to do, well, it's up to Nora.
Well, right now it's up to Doug Ford because there's situations where a lot of teachers are going to be laid off the next couple of weeks. So she might have more time in her hands. Who knows?
All I know is I couldn't imagine having anyone else illustrate or narrate anything that I write.
Yep.
But I mean, I don't hold a leash or anything, or I don't have any kind of magic wand.
We just want to say we appreciate you. That's what
I
I'm
do appreciate her. I just, I can't say yes, she's going to do this and she's going to do that. No.
Well, you got her and Mike, so that's due right there. So, and her career's just starting. We hope that this leads to greater success. Where in 5 years from now, she'll look back at this as being a foundation of her audio work. She'd be perfect on CBC or a YTV cartoon series, maybe a DC or a Marvel series, because she has that presence. She's a very beautiful person inside and out, and we want her to have the best success because it was just providence that she came into our lives, and maybe we needed someone like that besides me and Jim and the other supporters to get it going. But Jim always tells me when he gets the chapters from Nora, it's almost like, it's like the sun comes out in the middle of the night and it brightens you up.
I'm waiting on a new chapter from Nora because they're working on certain sound effects for the new novel, and I'm very excited to hear what they're going to turn out like. But I'm just not a patient person, so I'm,
What creator is?
so I have to really make myself be patient because she does such excellent work that I know that you can't hurry the kind of stuff that she does. And I honestly don't have a handle on just how much work she's actually doing, because I know it's a tremendous amount, because it's not just the finished amount time
It's
that
the mental.
I get.
It's the mental strength that you need to present it.
But not
Like
only
you're
that,
acting, you're acting and doing voice at the same time.
but it's how many takes she has to do.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I used to naively think that how can these people read so well and not trip over their feet?
Oh, they trip.
Because when I read, even stuff that I have written that I know the words inside and out, I still stumble, and you know, that's why I don't like doing readings for people. I like to get people to do them for me. So yeah, I don't know exactly how much work she does, but I know it's a tremendous amount, probably more than I'd be willing to put into it, because you know, I'm not a patient person. I think perfection is like a bar too high for me to reach. But she lives in the perfection world, and I think that's awesome.
How it works in my perfect world, if you think it's a good article, for you it's perfection. There's no journalist or writer that's going to 100% approve it. Look at Peter Benchley. I tried reading his stuff. He's a hack. Jim loves him to different ways. People don't like the fact I like Rod Serling. I like Rod Serling as a writer and presenter. Some people said, "Oh, we just redone it." Well, I mean, everything's redone in life. You got to live each day as a day, and it's all 24 hours. That's as what a redone you're going to get.
Well, there's no originality anymore. Everything that has been done to death. It's just you have to put your own unique spin or.
Game of Thrones rips off Excalibur, which ripped off the MGM movies. Clark Gable, Errol Flynn, and all that, we're all ripping off each other. You know, look at hockey. The net's there, it's 4x6. You shoot, it goes in. You're just doing the same thing that Howard Morenz did, 9 years ago? Austin Matthews plays like the production line. He plays like the old Maple Leafs and Canadiens. There's no original. It's like an homage, is what I'm saying. It's an homage. And so, by the way, in your travels this week, be very, very careful with the weather. But if you do see a Gugwe or smell a Gugwe or hear a whistling of a Gugwe, get the hell out of there and then let us know.
Like I said yesterday,
Get out there and let us know.
If the Gugwe's got his bead on you, you might as well pour ketchup on yourself. You're done.
Well,
Stick
no,
a
it
fork
depends
in
if
your
you're
butt.
close to the highway. He's not going to run down the highway because you can go, hopefully a car will come and maybe hit the Gugwe.
Well, my best advice to any of you guys that go out in the woods in New Brunswick is if you get lost, find a porcupine, because he's going to eventually go to the highway and get run over.
Well, what did people used to do? Put things in the trees like a protective thing against bears. That's not popular anymore. The Gugwe doesn't. A Gugwe just sees a box lunch. You know how they used to put the bear nests in trees? Remember that was a big thing in the States in the 90s?
I don't remember.
No, it was like bear nests. Like, you know, you're waiting for even the turkey nest. Waiting for the turkey to show up, you'd be shooting from a tree.
Oh, a tree stand.
Tree stand or like a tree nest or something. Gugwe sees that, it's a box lunch. He's about 9 to 11 feet tall already.
Well, in my research, I have come across situations where wardens and rangers, or whatever you want to call them, have come across situations where they have found hunters in their tree blinds with their heads darn near twisted off. So, you know, funny things like that happen, and they don't have an explanation for it.
Funny to the Gugwe because he's 90% towards his lunch and he gets swooped.
Well,
and
you
kicked
see,
off.
that's how. As I listened to Cat Hansen explain how a Gugwe does its thing, and I just shake my head because he breaks your neck basically by twisting your damn head off. Oh, sorry. But anyway, that's what they do.
You cursed again.
I did, darn it.
You used somewhat of a profanity.
But anyway,
Mother ducker.
just think about it. You know, the whole idea of even trying to conceptualize what something that big would look like. Well, how do you conceptualize something that, well, a big man is maybe 6'5". I'm 6'2", and Jeff's 6'2", so we're pretty large fellas. But to actually do, when you're walking through the woods, are you conceptualize the fact that a face can be looking down at you from 12 feet in the trees? No, we don't even look up high. That's one of the funny things about us in the woods as human beings.
And like,
we seem to walk around out there like we're the king shits of Turd Island, and we're not. We're not the top of the food chain. We're actually somewhere in the middle.
But some doctor told me, I was interviewed years ago, he said it's not hard to have a massive neck injury because of the amount of spinal and sinew that's in there that's not muscle. And he said that basically there was a case, hope you take it the right way, Guy was driving through the woods on his ATV near Balmoral. He decapitated himself because he went on an unmarked trail. And you know those old NB power lines that would come down. He cut his head off, and the RCP officer said, if you put enough pressure, you can decapitate yourself in any situation. And the same thing with the Gugwe. The Gugwe is going to be looking out for people that he can, bite their faces off. So, Jim, we're going to wrap up. Anything else you wanted to add?
My dog ate my underwear.
He said a dog ate his underwear. So, Jim, Jim tries to get the underwear saved. We'll leave it at that.
Have a good day, everybody.
Yeah, and watch out for flooding, especially Frankton, Grand Falls, Matapedia. I've been saying that a lot. Check EMO, check Province of Quebec sites, check New Brunswick sites. Be extremely careful because and stop with the friggin' gawkers. I mean, Terry Sege, my old media colleague, said this morning, people showing up and watching the water rise. Go home. That's not a safe area. If that rises too quickly,
Go home and watch Rabbit.
Rabbit. Go, watch Rabbit. Watch something sensible. But you gawkers, you're idiots. Just like the same people that went to Charlotte years ago, true story, when there was high winds and the Bay of Chaleur jumped the Charlotte Bar Basin. There were 3 or 4 cars there that were completely destroyed. And we're trying to sue the government. Oh, you didn't put barriers up. Don't be stupid. Say like Shania Twain, don't be stupid. Anyway.
And I wanna shout out to Derek Hamilton. I'm in your corner, man. I hope
we're heavily pleased.
I hope you win every award.
But no cinematography. I said that to him online and in a message I left. No cinematography for Rabbit. It's one of the most visually concise and accurate movies you're going to see of the interior of BC. And there's some scenes in there that mimic Russian, Japanese, Korean dramas. And you got to rip off for the best, especially one scene if you watch the movie where he's walking near a train trestle. It's just completely amazing. Probably one of the most dramatic scenes you've seen in Canadian movie or TV this year. But maybe I'm spoiled. Because Derek is like me. He's a product of the North Shore movie industry. Because that's all we did as kids: watch movies, VHS, Silver Bar Drive-In, the Capitol in Dalhousie, Mountain View Drive-In, Beresford Drive-In, the one in Batters, now the Apollo. So, but isn't that amazing how small the world is? We have people, creators that are telling us good job with Secrets of the Dam. Derek's a friend of ours. There's different celebrities that have basically took a chance to listen to our podcast. It's a good thing we're doing because we're sharing intelligence and quality work. So, Jim, thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
The third part of the Gugwe is going to come up soon. Keep a listen. And as usual, like, comment, subscribe. We're passing, again, 22,000 page views. That's tremendous. I'm hoping for 25,000 by the 1st of June, if that's possible. But I'm hoping. See, I'm not doing any more Trudeau podcasts. I'll tell you why. I'm tired of the cheap hits. One of my Trudeau podcasts is near 4,000 hits. And that's not what I want. I want people to expand on their love for certain things: hockey, sports, books like Jim, comic books, collectibles, boxing, wrestling. By the way, I'm coming up with a wrestling podcast, my top 10 best Canadian wrestlers, and that will tie in a little bit to Jimmy because I might have him join in on that podcast. We haven't decided yet. So I'd like you to be there when I go over my top 10. You can say yay or nay.
As long as Bret Hart's number 1, I'm all good.
Well, we don't know yet. He may have just given it away, but who cares? Because for some people, Bret Hart's not a Canadian because he's a dual citizen. Depends who you talk to. Man. So again, keep your stick in the ice. And again, to all the Lee fans, you deserve what you get. When you try to sleep with a 750-pound elephant, you might get the trunk. That's how it goes. Be the Kirk. And my own one additional shout out, by the way, to Rod Serling's daughter Anne, who is. I've been talking to her a little bit on Facebook in recent months. I am so blessed that Serling family is still very active in Rod's legacy, including the new Twilight Zone series, and did a book on her father. And Anne's a great writer, keeping the legacy going. I'm just so proud that all these writers, creators, producers are listening to our podcast on my Facebook. I feel quite honored because I wouldn't be a writer would it not be for Anne, your father. So
I'm going to give a shout out to Doug Arch because his writing is awesome, and I would like you people to go buy his book, The Life of a Screw.
Life of a Screw, man, great.
And if you got kids, you want to buy children's story for it, then get his
and he's
story.
He's a veteran. He's very. So how many people were involved? Well, I got one more shout out. Carl Leduc, leader of FLQ in Quebec. We're still trying to find out, Carl, if Sabu is going to come into Montreal. We don't know which show. We're trying to find it out. Because I do pro wrestling promotion on the side or help different feds. Sabu, if you're listening to this, tell us where you're going to Montreal. We can try to throw you publicity. If it's TNA and you can't say it till next week, that's okay. But we'll go from there. So, this has been a weird podcast. From the Gugwe to Sabu, and the way it goes. Have a good day. Bye.